Now, I don't know what your plans are for the July 4th weekend. I will still be here through July 4th, taking off actually on my birthday, the 5th, for the Atlantic City junket. And that's with a bunch of Altacockers. It's always kind of interesting to board that plane and realize that I'll be 71 that day, that I'm the youngest guy on the plane.
That's funny. I love that.
You talk about Con Air, man. That plane should just have a skull and crossbones on it. Never mind, some kind of symbol of what the airlines is all about. I mean, it's kind of like, there's a pretty good chance that somebody might check out on the flight.
Oh, Jesus.
With, the people that are going on it.
No.
We have a medical emergency. We're going to be landing in Tampa. Oh, okay, great. What is it? And then you look back in row 16. There's a guy having a seizure. Yeah. Yeah, you never know if that plane's going to take off on time because there's usually somebody that has to get off. At the last second, they start shaking, and we'll be slightly delayed here today as the paramedics have to board the plane. All right, clear the aisle. You get your charter flight.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
Good morning, South Florida and the world at large. Yes, I'm well aware you can all find us worldwide, but we know here on South Florida Live that we are South Florida centric. We come out of South Florida and we hopefully become one of the homes of South Florida content, as they say. This is a Friday morning heading into the weekend, my last day riding solo without one and only Jeff DeForest. I have not talked to him in like 3 days. That actually scares me. I don't talk to him a lot, but I'll get, I did get, when God rest his soul, James Caan, the latest legend to pass. I also at 82, much like the Hammer, Hank Goldberg, who passed earlier in the week. Defo did text about someone is cashing in a Deadpool because James Caan passed. So I did get that text from him yesterday, which I hadn't heard from him in a couple days. So I guess that's positive that he's still making jokes. I feel like if he went totally broke and with panhandling on the street, he wouldn't be making that joke. But honestly, with Defo, you never know. He could make that exact joke and be using someone else's phone because he lost his phone because he was so broke. But we're going to cross our fingers and think it's the former, not the latter. But he comes back Monday, finishes his stint in Atlantic City. I finished my stint solo here on this Degenerate Friday. Is it Degenerate Friday? We'll have a full-fledged Degenerate Friday, as the professor will join me 7:50, 8 o'clock, somewhere around there. And soon thereafter, he will do his big board top 5, his hilarious big board top 5. Each and every week, he pushes the envelope, and he makes us laugh. And sometimes he makes us wince while laughing, and then we laugh more. So tune into that. It's really funny. And each and every single one is archived here, South Florida Live. So check that out. We do that each and every Friday. And he never ceases to amaze us. He's been doing it for 2-3 months now, maybe longer. And every single week, he comes up with something that somehow blows out the one from the last week that had us laughing, putting us in tears. So definitely check that out. Also, Gambling Gourmet, Mike Mayo. You can check him out each and every day at 12 o'clock right here on South Florida. Check him out around 8:35. He tells you some of the things maybe you should be looking to eat over the weekend. Last weekend, we talked hot dogs, as he failed miserably to eat 7. He only ate 5 in 8.5 minutes when he was supposed to try and eat 7 in 10 minutes. The quitter that Mike Mayo is. But he does have he's still, even though he can't eat the way he pretends like he can, he definitely knows his food. And he definitely is great at sizing up what's out there for you to eat. So tune in around 8:35. We'll talk what's on his table and what maybe can be on your table this weekend or on the table that you're eating on this weekend with the one and only Mike Mayo. The world of sports rolls on. Yes, we have Wimbledon going on. It's really freaking annoying. Taylor Fritz was finally an American who got to the quarters. And it's actually sort of sad to me. If you can't beat a guy look, Rafa Nadal is as big a competitor as anyone. The fact that he was able to gut it out at this age and pull out the win is spectacular. But the fact that he then had to tap out, Rafa Nadal is in the semifinals, trying to win one of his last Grand Slams, because you would think we're getting near the end here for Rafa Nadal. And he has to tap out versus Kyrgios in the semis. Then that means he's really hurt. He didn't just get hurt. So to me, that's sort of pathetic of Fritz. Dude, you're playing an old man who has an abdominal. You understand, like, if your abdominals are hurt, there's fighting through injuries, but that's your core. Your core is the most important part of your body, especially with tennis, with the turning and the running. And Rafa, we know, covers the whole court. To me, if you're Fritz and you can't beat that, that's pathetic. Like, the dude was up 2-1 versus a guy that's clearly hurt. He had to have been hurt during that match. He didn't get hurt after, to the point where he has to quit in the semis, and you lose to him. That's a joke. And that actually says why a lot of us Americans don't. We haven't had a hope in an American in a long time. You finally have a guy who's in the quarters, should walk right through, because he's playing an old man who's hurt, and he loses in a 5 war that shouldn't have been. So people feel bad for Fritz. I don't feel bad for Fritz. He should have beaten the old man that's hurt. Like, that's a joke. So Nadal taps out. Kyrgios is going to walk through to the finals. We'll see what happens there. Again, I don't pay too much attention to tennis these days, and that's sort of why. We haven't had Americans that matter. And the women's, even the women's, it's been a few years since Serena has been Serena. I know it's been a long time since Venus was Venus. So, like, the American women, you have Sloane Stephens that's flirted with her for a while, and Madison Keys, and now Coco Gauff, gets us excited by getting to a quarters. Okay. Like, they're not really competing. It's the Ovas, it's the Russians and the Serbians and the Croatians, are the women from Eastern Europe that, owning it. And the men, we don't have Americans at all either. So it's made tennis sort of So I haven't really paid attention to tennis. That's what we keep Defo around for. Plus it's Degenerate leaning nature talk. But here, so you're not going to get much Wimbledon talk out of me. I won't lie. The NBA offseason rolls on. The latest after yesterday, I talked about the Miami Heat should now turn their focus to Donovan Mitchell, which, look, they offered a trade for Mitchell before they even got into the Kevin Durant discussions. So don't think they haven't focused on Mitchell. News yesterday, Donovan Mitchell won't ask out. Okay. He's trying to be the nice guy. He doesn't want to be a jerk. But nothing the Jazz have done has shown that they're going to build around him. They'll be rebuilding. And look, the guy is 25. So, yeah, I guess he could be a part of a rebuild and in 2 or 3 years to contend again. But you're not getting free agents there. And he's good enough where they're going to flirt with the playoffs. So the draft picks are going to be in. Like, to me, if you're Donovan Mitchell, you don't have to ask out, but that's stupid. Like, there's no reason to stay there. They are clearly rebuilding. They went with a 34-year-old coach. Why would you want to be a part of that? You can win now. You literally are the beginning of your superstardom. This is your, 10 years where you can be great, 10 to 12 years. When you get to your mid-30s, usually it starts to taper off. Like, why? Especially, and he's a physical kind of player, so who knows if he's going to be like a Durant, where he's into his mid-30s being great. To me, if you're Mitchell, you ask out. If you don't want to ask out because you're being a nice guy, fine. That changes nothing for me. Like, I still think he doesn't want to be there, and I still think the Jazz aren't building around him. The Jazz are rebuilding. I think if you're the Heat, you focus on him because the Brooklyn Nets. It's not that okay. So people are gonna. The other news out of the NBA really yesterday was the Brooklyn Nets turned down a ridiculous. Not turned down. I'm sorry. The Brooklyn Nets asked for a ridiculous trade from the Minnesota Timberwolves, one that they knew they weren't going to get, one that the Timberwolves balked at and laughed at, because that's what's happening right now. Kevin Durant still has 4 years on his deal. He just signed it last year, his extension with the Brooklyn Nets. They don't have to get rid of him. They don't really want to get rid of him. They're going to, because when a superstar is bitter in this day and age, you might as well just get a haul and move on. Like, it's not working. Kyrie's not playing. You had to get rid of Harden. Simmons is sort of a waste at this point. If Durant wants out, you might as well just junk it. And that's what it feels like they're going to do, is they're going to start over. But they're in the stage where there's no rush. Like, they're going to ask for the most outlandish trades possible. And if someone gives it to them, they'll be happy. And if someone won't, they'll keep Durant. Sort of what the Sixers were doing with Simmons last year. Supposedly, the Nets wanted Karl Anthony Towns, a guy who's one of the best big men in basketball and had a resurgence last year. Anthony Edwards, who's one of the best young players in basketball, literally can shoot threes almost as well as anyone and is as athletic as anyone, can get to the basket at will. And as a rookie, was a huge part of the Timberwolves not only getting to the playoffs, but almost winning a first-round series. Like, pulling off a huge upset, over the Grizzlies. So with that, I just can't boggle like the Nets. It doesn't boggle my mind. I know what they're doing. It's just funny. Like ask for Towns, they asked for Edwards and 4 first-round picks or 6. It was some ludicrous number. It was a trade that they knew they weren't going to get again, and the Teals weren't going to go for. But it tells you where the Nets are in this process. Like people like the Heat fans and Suns fans that thought this was a done deal or thought that it was happening sooner than later. It ain't. If the Nets are in that place where that's what they're asking for, then this isn't happening for a while. Like they're not rushing this, and they shouldn't. The dude has 4 years left. He has 4 years left. He committed to them. Yeah, I'm not mad at him because Kyrie's a total lunatic, and at this point, that's things not working. So to wait around is dumb. So he should ask out. But if you're the Nets, what are you rushing for? There's no rush. If someone gets antsy and really wants him bad enough, they'll give you a stupid ass trade, or you just keep Kevin Durant, which he's not. I don't see him being sit out guy. Like he's gonna play. It's only gonna hurt his value to sit out. So. It's just funny that like it came out yesterday. That's what they're asking for. It's like, yeah, okay. There's no way you're getting either. You're not getting Towns or Edwards. Like the point of getting Durant is to have both of those guys. But to ask for both, I mean, come on. So that's where the Nets are. That's where the NBA offseason is right now. Other news out of Miami. Victor Oladipo, which to me is a bigger move than people are giving it credit. Everyone worries about the new flashy thing, either like a stud rookie or a free agent acquisition. Or a big trade. Sometimes, like you saw with the Heat last year, what's in-house is what helps as much as anything. Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero took big steps last year. Yeah, the playoffs, they sort of screwed around on offense, and Bam was good on both sides. Bam was great on defense, okay on rebounding, and on offense, except for like 2 games or 3 games. Tyler Hero was totally useless the entire playoffs into the Eastern Conference Finals where he was hurt. I don't say he was hurt. Like, he was definitively hurt, but they're sort of acting like, oh, yeah, that's what he did all playoffs. No, he probably wasn't hurt all playoffs. He played like ass. But either way, the regular season, both guys took steps forward. Bam finally got really aggressive on offense, was averaging 19 and 12 or 19 and 11, something like that. Was really good on both sides of the floor. Should have been Defensive Player of the Year. Really took a step during the regular season. And Tyler Hero was like 0.1 points a game or 0.2 points a game from leading the Heat in scoring. Was 6th man of the year. And if he was starting, probably would have been an all-star. So they grew within. And that's what a lot of Heat fans and people are missing from Oladipo. Oladipo missed all of the year. He missed really the last 2-3 years. Before that, he wasn't an all-star. He was an all-NBA player. He was like one of the top 15 players in the NBA. Both ends. He was a dominant defensive player, and he became a really good offensive player. Shot the 3 really well, could get to the basket, was decent at facilitating. Like, the Pacers were in the playoffs and had a shot at doing something. He was their best player. Eventually he got hurt and they flirted in the playoffs, but they didn't do much, the Pacers. But if they had Oladipo, a lot of people thought they could have done some more damage. And he was their best player. And then he got hurt there. Then he went to the Heat and was hurt. And then this year they just set him out. But they brought him back at the end of the year. And in the playoffs, he was the Heat's 3rd best defensive player. I mean, you had Jimmy, you had Bam. You probably had Bam than Jimmy, because Bam to me is the best all-around defensive player in the NBA. Jimmy's probably top 2 or 3 perimeter defenders in the NBA. Oladipo was the 3rd guy. Oladipo at times was the best. He was dominant defensively. He really got in Tatum and Brown's head, and he showed flashes offensively. His 3 wasn't great. Hit a couple, hit a few in the playoffs, but he was getting to the basket. He was moving like Victor Oladipo. So it let people like me go, if he's doing this now, what does he do with a healthy offseason? And they talked about it yesterday. Victor Oladipo is saying, I'm going to come back better than I was before. If that's true, that's scary, because then he'd be a top 10 player in the league. I don't know if he's going to come back better, but he's not old. He's like late 20s, early 30s. And he hasn't had a lot of wear on his tires because he's been hurt a lot in his career. And in his time with Orlando and Oklahoma City, it wasn't like he was getting overly used. So, where Jimmy Butler is 32, 33, but like a 37-year-old's body because of how physical he plays and his time in Chicago really put him through the ringer. That's not the case for Oladipo. So to me, a lot of people aren't, as much as he want to get a Durant or Mitchell, and of course, if you can, go for it, Oladipo is going to be big for them. And this is a huge offseason for him. And I think if he can grow, then they'll be very scary, because Tyler Hero is still a guy that can put up points, and he's young. Tyler Hero is like 21. So that's really early. I don't need the professor this early. Tyler Hero is still young, so he still has a lot of room to grow. So if you're the Miami Heat, like, I want to make one of these moves, but again, a lot of people talk about this. Chemistry is everything for them. And you don't want to throw in someone just to throw in someone. So yesterday, Oladipo came out, he's going to come back better than ever. Will he? I don't know. But I do think it was interesting to be able to keep him and then get him for 2 years at a reduced rate. So you have more money to bring other players. So that was some news that came out of the NBA yesterday. The NHL draft was yesterday. That's all I have on that. The NHL network did a whole thing, and even ESPN tried to talk about the first player. Like, no one gives a shit. I don't care about the baseball draft, let alone the NHL draft, but I give Bettman credit for trying to make it something. That's fun. The NFL. Oh, this is something I do want to get into with the professor, so I may take a break and then come back and talk about it with him. The NFL, and for a second, it fucked me up because it said NFL Hall of Fame finalists, and I'm like, okay, so I'm looking for Zach. His name's not on there, and it's a bunch of old players. Like, the youngest players are like Sterling Sharp and Clay Matthews Jr., guys that retired at the beginning of Zach Thomas's career. So I'm like, oh, okay, what is this? So it was like the senior semifinalists. Okay, cool. So I really don't care about it, but there's one name that's on it that I think is a fucking joke. And I do want to talk to the professor about it. So we'll probably take a break and come back and we'll bring him on a little early. Robert Kraft is supposedly considered. I understand different sports have different things when it comes to like cheating and steroids and drugs, and some sports actually give a shit about it. Some sports don't. Like if it was if you're cycling, I don't know if you could take steroids seriously because then no one would be in your goddamn Hall of Fame. But Robert Kraft, first of all, every winning the Patriots have done, even though no one talks about it, was involved with cheating. They've never won ever without a cheating in that season. Every year, either that season or the season after, there was word of them cheating. Okay, he's the owner. So you can't laud him. You can hate Jerry Jones and say he's a scumbag and say he's annoying and say he's a piece of shit, but they haven't had actual cheating. He's just a loudmouth, obnoxious ass. But whatever winning they did and whatever he brought to the Cowboys and making them the top 3 richest, most valued franchises in all of sports worldwide, there wasn't cheating. He's just an asshole. Robert Kraft on the field during the season or the next season, there's always, literally every time they've won, there's cheating. He's the owner. So if you're going to give him credit for the winning of the team, then the cheating has to go on him too. Plus, he was embroiled in shit that to me is as bad or if not worse than Watson. Because at least Watson's a young dude and he can pretend he's young and whatever. Kraft's an old ass man who is a friggin' billionaire. He can't pretend he didn't know what the hell was going on at that spa. It not only what he was doing was illegal, like getting handsies and happy endings is not legal. Like, people do it and no one's going to rat you out, but it's not legal. Okay. So if you're caught for doing that, that's already doing illegal shit. Second, it was in the middle of a sting of underage and sex trafficking. Like, come on. Like, are you kidding me? So yeah, he got off, but he got off because he pled. He got off because he made a deal. It wasn't even like he went to court and they found him not guilty. First of all, that still usually ruins your reputation because you were involved in some way. That's one. 2, that's not what happened. They had it. You know what a deal means? You're admitting to it. He somehow admitted to the shit. Even like at least Watson's settling out of court. Watson's not going. He admitted to it. Like it was under the table, but he admitted to it. Got off with no penalties, and now they're considering putting him in a Hall of Fame. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, I'm not the professor when it comes to the Patriots. Like, I'll give them a little bit of credit because they did win, but come on. Like, the fact that people are so delusional about that franchise. He's the friggin' owner. You look, he's not only the owner, but there's a reason they show him 17 times a game. It's not like he's one of these owners from like the T-Wolves, even the T-Wolves or the Vikings, who you have no idea who the hell the owner is. Like the Chiefs. Like after Lamar Hunt, they go to his kid like once every 7 games and they win. Like he's one of these owners that you know who he is. So don't tell me he's not involved. Don't tell me he doesn't. No, he's the one literally. Belichick wanted to get rid of Brady for like 5 years. The only reason he didn't was because of Belichick, was because of crap. So you can't have it both ways. Like you can't have it, okay, he's a part of their winning, but he's not a part of the crap. Like what the hell is that? So whatever my opinion is, I'm sure the professor has an even stronger opinion. So I do want to talk to him about that because it's not the actual, it's like the senior hall. I don't even know what that means, but it's still a Hall of Fame. And he's one of the 54 semifinalists. And it's a dude that's been embroiled in controversy his entire time as owner. So like, if you want to ignore it, fine. But I mean, to literally try and put him in Hall of Fame, come on. Like, are you kidding me? And we're going to suspend Watson for a year, which I think he should be, because what he was doing, even if he didn't do major crimes, you don't need 70 masseuse. Like, Pick 5. Do a rotation. Like, you don't need 70. Like, when you have 67 different people massaging you and you're a high-profile athlete, that alone is fucking weird. So you're asking for trouble. Even if he did nothing wrong, it's weird. Let alone he did something. There's a gray area in there. So I don't think he should go to prison forever, but I think he should be suspended. But the fact that Kraft got nothing, he's an owner. Like, the owner should be held more accountable, not less. Like, we have this weird thing where the players are bad. They're 22 years old. A 22-year-old and a 68-year-old, which is the one you should. I'm telling you right now, the college student should be held less accountable than the grandfather. Like, I'm telling you right now, my dad is a lot more accountable than my 15-year-old niece. So, like, I don't understand. Like, it's for some reason, the Patriot aura gets this weird fucking, it has this Teflon around them, and it doesn't make any goddamn sense. So we'll talk with the professor about that coming up next. I'm sure he'll have a stronger opinion. A word out of the world of college football. We've heard, the flirtation ever since USC, and you said that last week. It was announced that they're going to be joining the Big 10, or it'll be the Big 16, I guess. What is the SEC going to do? Because they're not going to stand pat. And schools, the ACC looks like a school that's going to, not a school, I'm sorry, a conference that's going to be by the wayside. So schools like FSU, Clemson, possibly Virginia, Miami, North Carolina, would the SEC be interested in those schools? What would those schools want to do? Would the and I've talked about this, would the ACC join with the rest of the Pac-12, which is a dumbass idea because, so you're just plugging a hole in a ship with a freaking Band-Aid and it's a hole this big. Like, eventually you're going to die. You might as well be proactive. Came out yesterday from some FSU sources that FSU has been behind the scenes in talks with both the Big Ten and the SEC the last year, trying to figure out what their next move is. To me, that'd be interesting. And a lot of people are laughing at UM supposedly because you'll hear Virginia, Carolina, FSU, and Clemson mention no UM. One of these conferences is taking UM. Like, you're not going to, especially now Cristobal and Radakovich and the staff they put together and the money they're spending, you want that market. Like, you want the South Florida market for however crappy it is viewership-wise now. Like, revenue-wise now, it's a top 12 television market. Like, with what the Big Ten's doing, if the SEC doesn't grab Miami, then the Big Ten will. So, Miami, it's not a joke that they're not going to get left down the cold. Someone will grab them. I'm just curious to see what FSU does then, because to me, I would rather be in the Big Ten. I think both conferences are going to be fucking insane when it comes to competition, but I hate the SEC. Like, I don't hate the Big Ten. I hate the SEC. Like, to have to be a part of the SEC. Look, you do what you got to do at this point. You don't want to be in Big 12, Pac-12, or ACC, so you don't want to be in one of those two, but I wouldn't want to be in that. If you have a choice, the SEC sucks. Like, I hate the SEC. Like, and that hasn't changed. Like, and that won't change. Like, I'll never be SEC. Like, that's the stupidest. Like, who gives a shit about the conference? Like, who roots for their conference? Like, I'm never going to do that. And that's like in the blood. If you're a part, it's like in the rights. If you're an SEC member, when Vandy wins, you got to be happy. And when Bama wins, if you're Vandy, you got to go, oh, look, we won too. You didn't win. You're Vandy. But like, to me, I'd rather be in the Big Ten. So I didn't realize FSU wasn't even an option that they could be in the Big Ten possibly. So we'll see what happens with that. Marlins getting annihilated by the Mets. Those of you, Jim Sarney, that want me to talk more Marlins, this is why we don't. They get within one game and they lose the next two, 5-2, and get annihilated 10-0. And I don't even know who the pitcher was for the Mets. So there's your Marlins update. We're going to take a break. When we get back, we will talk with the one and only professor a little early, get him in, get him ignited early before his big board top 5. I'm sure he didn't even see the thing I saw. And look, maybe I'm making more of it. Maybe there's no shot he gets in. But the NFL, they have this weird love affair with Kraft. And a lot of people, look, I'll give people credit when this Watson stuff came up and people were like, what about some owners? That's my favorite, some owners. You mean Irsay, you mean Irsay, Snyder, and Kraft. That's what you mean. Like, the other owners, no one knows who the fuck they are. Ross is an idiot, and Ross has put his foot in his mouth, and he talks about equality and then funds Trump, which is the weirdest combination ever. But, like, and the stuff he was trying to pay to tank, but it's not this shit. Like, there's 3 guys. When you say owners, I love, owners. No, there's 3. It's Irsay, who's a drug addict. It's Snyder, who's just a total misogynistic scumbag. And it's Kraft, who is probably worse than them all. Yet they get off because they're owners. That's so weird to me. The adult in the room is the one that should be held more accountable, not less. So we're going to take a break. When we get back, we'll talk with the professor about those things. And of course, he will have his big board top 5. Thief Man is back Monday. This is the Defo Show. No Defo, just Lubie here. South Florida Live. Have the professor coming up. And Mike Mayo, Gambling Gourmet at 8:35 right here on South Florida Live.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously. Friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks, hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-90.
This has been great because as cold as Jersey Kyle has been with his degenerate stimulus package horses, this man has been on fire with Australian rules football to the point where people are calling him Crocodile as he joins us here on the show. The Crocodile himself, the professor, now 14-8 in documented picks on Australian rules football. Professor, how are you, my friend?
I'm good, Defo. In fact, not only am I 14-8 and picking Australian rules football, I am 6-0 in Australia's favorite national game. Is this or is this not a night?
The best way to kick off your day is with Defo plus Lubie. We now return to the Defo Show.
Alrighty, welcome back to the Defo Show. No Defo, just Lubie here on South Florida Live. We talk to this gentleman each and every week, usually later because Defo we invite him on at 7:50 and then he comes on at 8:25. But today we're getting extra professor time here. Good morning, Professor Man. What's going on, Ken?
Morning, Lubie. I joined in to have a little heat talk.
Yeah, well, I talked a lot more about your craft than I did heat, but it came out yesterday.
I can't get enough NBA off-season talk.
You're like
when did the NBA turn into the NFL in terms of off-season? And does this say that there is absolutely no future for Major League Baseball in this country? Because like ESPN, who sort of sets the tone, and everybody else, all anybody's talking about is, oh, where is Kevin Durant being traded? What is Kyrie Irving going to do to get to the Lakers? So this guy, that Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, like people will talk about literally anything to avoid talking about Major League Baseball. And I honestly think I'm going to turn on ESPN and see like 20 minutes of highlight coverage because we don't want to talk about baseball.
Look, it was 2010. I mean, it's what I told Defo. Like that offseason, the LeBron offseason ignited where the NBA could be interesting in the offseason. And you're not wrong. The combination of that and then people not giving a shit about baseball.
Is it actually interesting this year there? Because I don't really think it's genuinely interesting. I think it's...
No, there's nothing right now.
Kyrie, who everybody acknowledges the best case scenario is he'll go somewhere and make the team better for like 20 games and then slowly, not even slowly, rapidly erode the team around him because that's what he does. It's Kevin Durant, who New Jersey doesn't have to trade at this point. And let's be honest, probably isn't getting traded at least until like right in front of the season. And it's not just the hot stove stuff. Okay, I get that. That's always been a part of sports talk. I can't tell you how much goddamn NBA Summer League I've heard talked about over the last week. I get it. Chet Holmgren had an exciting debut. And then Banchero and Smith last night. Really? We talk this much Summer League now?
Yes.
It's bizarre because I mean, half the Summer League rosters are dudes are going to be playing on the And One tour or show up in like the professor's YouTube videos. Not me, the professor, the little white guy from Canada with the one who carries the ball constantly.
Yep.
I don't get it, man. Like I'm not trying to be this guy, but the NBA television ratings do not justify this level of coverage. I feel like, honestly, this is ESPN being like, we paid $5 billion or whatever for the NBA's television contract. We're going to beat this horse to death.
Yes. Well, they don't care about baseball. Like, people don't care. Like,
I agree.
People ask me, what about the Marlins? And it's like, okay. What do you want me to say?
Honestly, look at it down here. Look at it down here. A guy who is doing Babe Ruth shit in Ohtani was just in town like 2 days ago. Nobody down here talked about it at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he pitched, right? I mean, he pitched and he hit, and I think he had RBIs.
He had made a history by getting 2 RBIs, stealing a base, and pitching 7 innings without giving up a run.
Yeah, and 10 Ks too, I think. I mean, like, nobody, and I get it. Part of it is he doesn't speak English, whatever. But like, nobody on the radio down here was literally. I tune in the radio, and we haven't talked about it a lot. But these sports shows that are sponsored by gambling companies, that they're the worst shit I've ever heard. Like a bunch of 14-year-olds and a hot chick talking about, is this middle reliever going to have over or under 1.5 strikeouts tonight? And I tuned into one the other day because I had to be in the car for a while the other day. They literally spent 15 minutes talking about gambling on the NBA Summer League. Like,
oh, Jesus Christ.
What the hell?
Who's on the roster?
Right? It's like the 3 draft picks, and a bunch of Serbians and Russians who have been sitting in some academy in Belgrade for 17 years. You have honestly. Oh, I know if you are like a particular maniac, if you're like our buddy Blake, you've seen like 10 minutes of YouTube of this guy the Heat drafted.
Jovic, yeah.
But otherwise, if you're just like the average Heat fan, don't pretend you have any clue who this jerk off is.
No clue. You thought it was
Jokic. You saw the name and you're like, oh, it's Jokic's brother. No. Literally, what I think it was NBA Draft.net put a review, and like the pros and cons for this kid was not actually related to Jokic. That was the whole review of the guy. And I'm not anti-NBA. I'm not anti these coverage. I'm very anti these gambling shows. Like, oh my God, like you are embarrassing the whole industry. This is what the industry is now. Like, gambling is no longer like degenerate or fun or cool. We have turned the gambling industry into like the entertainment industry, where like some random hot chick who nobody's the Jules Asner of the gambling world, and you look at it like, oh yeah, she's great looking, but you're on the radio, so the fact that you're hot does nothing for me. And a bunch of kids who have been out of college at UNLV for like 12 hours are now the sports media gambling industry. I don't get it. I don't.
Well, it is funny.
I mean, I get that Brent Musburger proved that nobody wants to listen to old dudes talk gambling. And I think part of that is our fault, because like we use way too much of the lingo and people don't understand it. And like, so they have these dumb kids who have invented whole new lingo. One of the girls the other day was like, oh, are you tailing my bets? Are you tailing me? I was like, come on, really? That's the term you're going with?
You're following me? Is that what tailing means?
Yeah, that's what it means. Are you taking her bets? But it sounds, sexual. Like that. We've done this. It's very strange. Anyway.
Well, no, that's a whole thing. My favorite is when they're like, "Will PJ Tucker have over under 4 rebounds?" I'm like, PJ, what? I'm like, who gives a shit?
No, that's the whole basis. That's the whole basis of this prop madness crap that everybody has fallen deep into the rabbit hole with. I don't get it at all.
Like, how many faults will Rafa Nadal have? Like,
we now, as an industry, go so far out of our way to avoid talking any Major League Baseball. And I'm not the biggest baseball guy, but like, we just pretend it doesn't exist. It's weird.
So, anyways, I started off with that because that came out yesterday. I talked with you about, and we'll talk a little bit more about the college football realignment. And I don't know if I was just scouring ESPN, CBS, just, for some headlines. And it says something about Hall of Fame Robert Kraft. And I'm like, oh, this can't be real. So it's the senior. I don't know what, maybe you know more about it. The senior semifinalists. And like, it's like a bunch of older guys. It's Clay Matthews Jr. And it's,
who should be a Hall of Famer, by the way.
Hayes, and it's Sterling
Also
Sharp.
should be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, but and Ken, whatever, the guy that was a quarterback for the Bengals. That's what I'm saying. It's guys that should have been, but aren't in. Like, I don't think it's like fresh off the league guys, right? Okay, cool.
No, it's the equivalent of the Veterans Committee on Major League Baseball. There is a seniors committee that takes a bunch of names and propose them, and then they vote on them. And a certain number, I think it's like 2 or 3, get passed up to the regular Hall of Fame committee to be voted on, and they have to get 80% of the vote. And if they go through the seniors and then get 80% of the vote with the regular Hall of Fame committee, they get in. And there's a lot of contributors and owners and media types
coaches and owners
on the list. And then there's a lot of players who got ignored who probably do deserve to get in.
So one of those names, and that's what I honed in on. Once I saw it wasn't Zach Thomas, I'm like, okay, this is another list. I think a lot of these guys belong in. We'll see if any of them get in. Cool. And then one of the names I see of the 54 semifinalists is Robert Kraft. And I'm like, huh? Like, how can he be, even if it's senior? I don't give a shit what caveat you put to it. Like, look, Brady's going to get in, and they're going to disregard the cheating. Belichick's going to get in, and they're going to disregard the cheating. Whatever. That's asinine, but it's going to it's going to happen. Okay.
Gronk's going to get in.
Nor cheating.
Richard Seymour's getting in this year. There's going to be a few other players.
But
yeah, Richard Seymour absolutely deserves it.
But Kraft, like,
Richard Seymour is one of the greatest 3 techs who's ever played.
He's great. It was a shorter run, and the Patriots sort of fucked him because he could have got another 3 to 4 years of greatness. And then once they moved him to like the Raiders, it sort of screwed his legacy. But yes, I wouldn't be against it. He's more borderline to me just because it was a shorter tenure. But Kraft, like, to me, if the cheating falls on anyone on the field, it should fall on the owner. One, and then what you and I've talked about, we always make, at least you, Defo, would make fun of the Orchid Asian Spa. Well, after it happened, even to this day, Defo will throw in, if Kraft comes up, some kind of masseuse joke. But the fact that he never was suspended, the fact that they never talked about him losing his team, the fact that nothing came from that, the least you would attach to him is that he can't be a part of a Hall of Fame from that. So, okay, I'm bring it up with you, the guy that always yells at me when, we're having someone Patriot on. You better talk about the cheating, you fucking asshole. You better talk about the cheating. So I figured I'd bring it up to you because, to me, if I was disgusted, I thought you'd have an even more visceral reaction than myself.
Here's I'm going to issue the indictment I have done several times, and it's your fault, Lubie, and I don't mean you personally.
Yeah.
It is the sports media's fault, and you see the disconnect in the coverage between what Robert Kraft did a few years back and what Deshaun Watson did. Deshaun Watson is treated like a serial killer by the NFL media. And it's very interesting you brought this up today because I don't know if you saw it, but Josina Anderson on Twitter, the ESPN personality.
Oh, she's not ESPN anymore, formerly of ESPN.
Formerly of ESPN, sorry.
Yeah.
Was talking about one of the witnesses in the case, which is the son of one of the masseuses, and it was part of Watson's side of the case, has issued a deposition where he said, my mom actually talked very positively about Deshaun Watson until the lawsuit started. And then all of a sudden her story completely changed. And Josina Anderson was absolutely taken apart on Twitter, particularly by the women's sports writers, but really by male and female sports writers. And it's like, you're not allowed to express any doubt about the crimes of Deshaun Watson. You're not allowed to say Deshaun Watson is not quite as bad as Ted Bundy without the combined power of the NFL writers just lighting you up these days. And let's be honest about the Deshaun Watson situation. You're not even allowed really to observe. There's like 30 or 20, 27, 28 women, whatever. And they're all masseuses. Some of these women have probably been sex workers at some point in their life. I'm sorry. If you are on Instagram advertising masseuses, you've probably given a happy ending or two.
The words of the professor. No,
But no, when they talk about these things,
yeah, I get it.
they talk about it like Deshaun Watson was Instagramming Girl Scout troop mothers and say, come to my house and sell me some Thin Mints, and then pulling his junk out. That's not the situation. You've got the owner of the massage parlor who Deshaun Watson gave, what was it, $50,000 to, who basically has come out and said, yes, I was arranging women and sending them over to Deshaun Watson's place, and they knew what the deal was going into this.
Which is a thing that happens, by the way.
She didn't. She didn't send all the women. This isn't to say that every woman in the case is a sex worker, but some of them were.
They have an idea. Yeah.
But if you observe this, you're a inhuman monster. But when Robert Kraft did it, everybody was like, "Oh, that's cute." The old man went to the Asian massage place and got. And then look, hey, it's South Florida. When I see one of those Asian massage places, I assume it's a rub and tug joint. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not shocked by this. I'm not, have some puritanical sense by this. But he committed a sex crime, and everybody decided let it go. And look, some of this came from the way the case was handled and prosecuted in law enforcement. People forget Robert Kraft wasn't even the only billionaire that caught up in this thing. 3 different billionaires got caught in a 3-county sting where there were something like 240 arrests.
Oh my God.
And there were something like a couple of dozen millionaires who got in. So what happened? Law enforcement realized, oh shit, we are messing with people with way too much money. And they're claiming entrapment, and we don't have the money to fight this, so we're just going to drop all these cases. And after that happened, everybody sort of just said, oh, well, see, Robert Kraft didn't do nothing wrong. They dropped the case. No, they dropped the case because he's a billionaire, and they knew they couldn't fight him.
Yep.
There's a videotape. It wasn't released to the public. There was one on the internet that claimed to be the actual tape. I don't know if it's true or not. There's a videotape out there of what happened with Robert Kraft, and he did it. He committed a sex crime. Everybody in the media, is it because they didn't want to think about an old dude's junk getting handled by a young Asian girl? Maybe. Is it because it's there's 2 ways to look at it. One is funny and the other is uncomfortable, and neither one's really great to want to go on the air and talk about, particularly if you're on television or you're on the radio where you have some language limitations. Sure, I get that aspect, but everybody let it go. And so, of course, the Hall of Fame, the media, the rest of the media since has gone with this narrative of Deshaun Watson is history's greatest monster, but it's cute when Robert Kraft does it. It's like it's an old guy getting tugged by an Asian
grosser to me. That's not less gross.
I don't think either is more or less gross.
I think
they're both completely bizarre to me, to be honest. Because if you're Robert Kraft, you're a billionaire. You can
go to Vegas. It's legal.
Sexually, you can do whatever the hell you want to do.
Like it's legal.
Like there's no secret that there are
legal.
A bunch of guys out there who fly porn stars in and pay them huge amounts of. You could do that. You can go to Vegas. You can hire for enough money a prostitute who will do whatever you want and be very discreet about it. If you're Robert Kraft, do not need to go to the $75 rub and tug joint. Deshaun Watson, you're like a young, good-looking professional athlete. You go to the club and get pretty much all the girls to do that to you that you want. I don't get any of this. I think it's weird, but I think anybody who doesn't see the disconnect, and I keep wanting to shout out, and I'll do it actually. Mina Kimes, for example, who has consistently behaved as if Deshaun Watson is Jack the Ripper, never had a word to say about Robert Kraft.
Yeah, that's interesting. There's
a bunch of others out there. She's the one, for whatever reason, sticks out on Twitter to me because she's been very vocal about Deshaun Watson. I see a huge disconnect in the coverage of those 2 stories. Why that is, I don't know. One's a player, one's young. I don't know. It's uncomfortable to talk about Robert Kraft's genitalia.
Watson, a lot of these women have come out suing him because they felt there was impropriety, right? Whatever happened with Kraft was illegal because you're not allowed to do that by law. It's fine. But there hasn't been any, slings and arrows of impropriety. Now, if they were sex trafficked, women, there's no really place for them to come out and charge of impropriety. But that maybe that's what they're seeing. I don't know.
Robert Kraft did it at a place that was importing women from China to come on over and be sex workers. There's some questions about whether that was voluntary or sex trafficked. But those women aren't going to sue.
Yeah,
they're not going to go pursue the legal route. The Deshaun Watson women have pursued the legal route, and that's fine. I get it, the disparity there, but that's part of just what the two of them were doing. I mean, Robert Kraft was slicker about it is no shock. Robert Kraft is almost inevitably a lot smarter than Deshaun Watson is.
He's a billionaire, so as we've seen, being a billionaire doesn't mean that you're bright. Sometimes you just fall ass backwards into shit. But
Robert Kraft's a very smart guy.
Brighter. He's a smart dude. You would assume. So if he's good, yeah. But as smart as he is, like you just named 5 or 6 different ways he could get women.
I agree.
Would be less intrusive.
His mind might not be experienced with advanced degeneracy as mine is. So he may have never occurred to him. Look, Robert Kraft's going into the Hall of Fame. It is inevitable. You might as well just accept it. Feel how you're going to feel about the Patriots. There are people like me who say, look, Tom Brady and Gronk, as great as they were, we don't know what their careers would or would not have been without the cheating. Maybe they'd be absolutely just as great. Maybe Tom Brady would be the sort of above average, but nowhere near great quarterback that he was before for the first 5 years of his career. We don't know these things, but those guys are going in. Robert Kraft, again, we don't know the entire details of his lurid side. But he's going in. He's the owner of and he's given a lot of credit as an owner, not just for winning the titles, but for helping to expand the economic base of the NFL. He's going in. Get used to it. Accept it. I don't know what to tell you. For whatever reason, pretty much from day one, there has been very little desire to call out Robert Kraft on the sex offenses. Again, there's a lot of reasons for that. And a lot of people are going to be like, yeah, because he's however old he was. What was he, like 75 or whatever when he got caught? Like they kind of view that as like the harmless old man thing. As far as the actual Hall of Fame things, I know South Florida very fired up that once again, Zach Thomas did not get in. Kind of interesting to me when you look at it, because I have always said the problem for Zach Thomas is Zach Thomas played smack in the middle of the absolute 100% best era for middle linebackers ever. Urlacher, Ray Lewis, Hardy Nickerson, a bunch of other dudes. A bunch of other dudes. Now, if you look at it, I found it very interesting. Sam Mills got in. I'm not hating on Sam Mills.
That's my problem.
Great linebacker.
It was good.
One of the other guys who also missed was Patrick Willis, who, in my opinion, 100% no doubt Hall of Famer, should have gone in first ballot as far as I'm concerned. Yep. But you're looking at it, Zach Thomas missed to a guy who was a little bit older than Zach Thomas and to a guy who was notably younger than Zach Thomas. So now he's not only lumped in with all those dudes who he directly played with, he's lumped in with dudes before and after him, too, at the same position. And there's been a lot of great players at that position. So I'm particularly in Zach's era. So, I mean, it's kind of like being a wide receiver, and you're seeing all these wide receivers miss. Reggie Wayne missed. Had Reggie Wayne played 20 years earlier, numbers-wise, he would have easily gotten in. He would have probably finished like the third best numbers all time if he had been 20 years younger.
Yeah.
But, certain positions, certain eras, it's tough. And Zach Thomas is definitely caught right in the middle of that.
Yeah. We'll see. It feels like at some point he will get in. But right now, again, he's going up against the best of all time. The linebacker crop of the 90s and 2000s was freaking ridiculous. So, and look, he fit right in with them. So that should be something that goes to his credit. We'll see what happens with that. Yeah, I know.
Not just linebackers, middle linebackers specifically.
Yeah.
Wasn't a pass rusher. And again, he is, like, if you listed the top 10 middle linebackers of all time, like 8 of them would have played in this era.
That era.
He was in a crazy era and part of that was the way defenses functioned during his era, where the whole idea of you got 2 human icebergs playing defensive tackle, keep the blockers off your middle linebacker, let your middle linebacker run side to side and make tackles. And it was a highlight reel era for the position, and Zach Thomas and all those other guys made the most of it, had phenomenal careers. But like I said, Zach is just stuck in a very different,
difficult spot.
very different place. I have no problem with it, because I'm looking at this list. There's really all these guys to me are Hall of Fame players. So I can't. I mean, Bryant Young, Leroy Butler, Richard Seymour, Sam Mills, Tony Baselli, all of those guys. A bunch of those guys, I'm like, they're not in already. Like, why aren't some of these guys previously in?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess Cliff Branch is one people wanted to debate. To me, Cliff Branch is a Hall of Famer. He's just like in that Paul Warfield area of wide receivers, where like teams drew the ball deep like once a game, so you only got a little bit of a chance to show your skills. But I'm not gonna. I know I've read a couple places where like Sam Mills got in, and Sam Mills was a really great player.
Yeah, it was great. I wasn't mad at it. I just think if Mills gets in, then Zach Thomas should get in too. They were very comparable when it comes to their skill set and when it comes to their stats. Look, the Kraft thing, it's not a question. I know he's going to get in. That's what I just find it interesting. Like we haven't gotten too much into this.
I mean, honestly, I don't find it interesting because this is the way, I mean, I've been and the problem with this, I hate this topic is because it makes it sound like I'm pro Deshaun Watson. I am not pro Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, exactly.
Deshaun Watson might very well be a huge scumbag. All I'm saying is, there's been such a disconnect in the way the Watson case was covered and the way the Kraft case was covered, and not in numbers. Obviously, Deshaun Watson, it's the numbers that shock you. But in terms of the crime itself, it's pretty much the exact same thing. The only difference is Deshaun Watson invited him over to the house and Robert Kraft went to the strip mall. The way those two stories have been covered, I'm not surprised or shocked or any of that. I'm kind of over it, honestly. It's the way it is. People who want to say it's race is probably in the mix if we're going to be brutally honest about it. People, for whatever reason, are threatened by Deshaun Watson and are not threatened by Robert Kraft. Hey, I guess that's the difference between a pro athlete, even a quarterback, and an owner. Yep. People just view you differently.
Yep.
I don't get it. I mean, is it the fact that we worship wealthy people in this country? Yep. Possibly. Is race in the mix? Possibly. Is age in the mix? Possibly. Whatever the reasons are, you can't deny the disconnect in the way the two have been covered.
Yeah, that's why. Look, you and I've talked about it off air. Because with Defo, we go on 40 tangents, so we haven't gotten really into it. So I figured I'd use this as the time that watching stuff is still out there.
Yeah, that's fine.
Brought up. So I was like, you know what? It's just because it is. Look, he's old, rich white guy versus young. Oh, I'm sorry. He's old, wealthy white guy versus young, rich black guy.
Yeah.
Well, look, and there's a whole nother thing, but it's a guy kills 6 people, injures 20-something. The cops ask him nicely, "Can you lay down and put your arms behind your back?" A black guy's walking, no weapon, doing nothing.
Okay, I'm not gonna get into the gun policy and that. I would say honestly, it's the difference between like when a rapper gets arrested because there's a 9 somewhere on his tour bus along with some weed. Everybody loses their mind about it, even though the rapper's like Nelly and he's never had a criminal incident since he was 14 years old or whatever. Everybody loses their mind about it. But when they go to Jason Aldean's house on Cribs and he goes to his man room and there's 47 guns, everybody's like, "Oh yeah, he just used those for hunting. He needs him and dozen AR-15s to shoot deer with." We cover things differently in this country. That's it's the way it rolls.
It is. I don't feel bad saying it, but talk coming up next. We'll take a break and then we'll bring back Professor. Hopefully, has some plays for us.
By the way, someone's asking me about the U.S. women's national team 5-0 over Jamaica qualifying for the World Cup.
Talking about things no one cares about.
I'm like everybody else in America. I don't watch any of the U.S. women's national team until the actual World Cup starts. To be fair, I don't watch any of the U.S. men's team until the actual World Cup starts. If you want women's soccer coverage, talk to Lubie. I definitely do not pretend I have a lot of interest in that. I hope they win when the World Cup rolls around, but other than that, sorry.
I have no coverage for you. When we get back, I don't know what plays we'll have actually because he's already.
We don't have any plays this week. We're in our off season.
He's not watching baseball. But we do
will
have
talk some college football. We need to get to that.
So we'll talk about the latest rumors swirling around. A lot of it's focusing on the ACC and one the Pac-12. The Pac-12,
As
the
it should.
ACC. What's going to happen with FSU? What's going to happen with Clemson? What's going to happen with Miami? And what's going to happen with Oregon and Washington? Arizona.
And Stanford. Stanford to me is
Stanford,
one of the more interesting free agents out there.
No one's talked about Stanford at all. Stanford, I actually forgot about for a second because no one's discussed Stanford at all. So we'll talk about college football realignment. And then we'll have the world famous Professor's Big Board Top 5 following that right here. The Defo Show, no Defo, just Lubie and the Professor right here on South Florida Live.
Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
Hey folks, Tony Segreto here. You know, since day one, Catholic Health Services has been part of Old School. And since we've started letting people know about them, it's changed their lives. You see, Catholic Health Services, while being recognized as one of the top places for stroke rehab in the country, it's also about a group of people who not just excel in what they do, from the doctors to the nurses to the therapist, on and on and on. It's how they do what they do every single day that separates them from the pack. They do it with a passion, unmatched, and the inclusion of family in every step of the process. Trust me when I tell you this. If you want the best, unmatched rehab with a special group of skilled, caring people, there is truly only one place, and that one place is Catholic Health Services.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. Their hours have changed a little bit. Monday through Thursday from 3:30 to 10, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 11:30 to 10. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
The last 2 weeks here on the show, picking college football, the Professor is 5-0, and this past month, now 8-2. He's on fire. We welcome to the show the Professor. Professor, how are you, my friend?
How could I be anything but fantastic, Defo? The New England Patriots go down in flames, and Cam Newton looks like hot garbage doing it. Can't think of two people more than Bill Belichick and Cam Newton who deserve to have miserable lives. It's a pretty great morning.
The Professor, one of the owners of the Foundry Restaurant, an outstanding place, very popular place. I mean, you can get pretty much a full spectrum of food there, but I noticed a menu item change. You had 4 varieties of chicken dishes there, the fricassee, Parmesan, Frances, and now chicken Treshevsky. Is that a new dish on the menu there? What does that mean?
You know, we don't really talk about Coach K issues in the restaurant business, Evo, because we don't want to remind people of rats.
I knew it.
Yeah, you could get cited for putting that on the menu.
Enjoy your trip to work with lots of laughs thanks to Defo and Lubie. Now on the Defo Show.
All righty, welcome back to the Defo Show. No Defo, just Lubie here on South Florida Live, joined by the one and only Professor coming up. Shortly, we will have his world famous Big Board Top 5 each and every week. He tops himself yet again. I actually wasn't privy this week, so I have no idea what the hell he's going with. So I wish him luck because usually we'll consult a little bit and he'll just run with it anyways and do some hilarious shit out of his ass. I don't know what he went with this week, so I'm actually in suspense with the rest of you, so we'll see that coming up. But he is our college football guru. He is our college football expert, and much like the NBA, college football is in the news even though they're not playing right now. Realignment stuff continues to swirl with rumors. Will the ACC and Pac-12 join forces, which makes no sense? You and I talked about that.
Not at this point.
Who will go from the Pac-12 to the Big Ten? Who will go from the Pac-12 wherever? What the ACC do? What are your thoughts? You are a Kane fan? You're a realistic Kane fan, but you grew up like in the Canes. Hasn't really been in these discussions a lot yet, but like you and I talked about yesterday, we presume they will end up one of these two places, Big Ten, SEC.
Has been talked about, but only talked about in the sense that
not getting in.
Why doesn't the SEC seemingly have any interest in the University of Miami? And the story that's out there, and I know I haven't fact checked this, I haven't called any sources on it, but the story that seems to be predominant as of yesterday is UM's not being discussed because the University of Florida doesn't want University of Miami in the SEC. And at this point, given the University of Miami's television market, given their abilities in various sports, that seems entirely personal to me. And that would make some degree of sense because it's not just Miami fans. It's been Miami administrators. It's been Miami coaches through the years. We've had a lot of negative things to say about the University of Florida, dating back to the days where Steve Spurrier dropped the series. So I guess, a little bit of revenge time, maybe.
But again, it's so funny. I've been so focused on the SEC that you brought up. Yeah, if the SEC doesn't take them, the Big Ten probably will, and it actually works because Miami focuses on academics, always has, and the Big Ten is always.
Well, not always.
In the last 20 years, with
right when the football team got a lot worse.
Shalala put a focus on academics.
With Dada Shalala killed the football program in favor of academics, and it would be bitterly ironic for people like me and our friend of the show, Billy Corbin, and Defo, who have had not a lot of nice things to say about that particular move. And I go back to the famous quote, which is like the first thing that Donna Shalala said, even before she was president of the school, when it was coming, but she hadn't started yet. And they interviewed her, I think, at an Orange Bowl, and she said, "Oh, I'd like to build a football program much like the one we have at the University of Wisconsin." Well, now it seems to be trending that not only did she do that in terms of football results, Miami might be headed for the Big Ten too. So we're going to be exactly along the lines of the Donna Shalala plan. We're going to share a league with the University of Wisconsin.
So that was the thing. Is it was SEC, and you were like, yeah, well, if not, they join the Big Ten, and that seems to fit. The Big Ten has focus on academics. While
I feel like the Big Ten's a better fit. And we talked about it last week. The Big Ten is going for television markets, and the SEC is going for rabid fan bases.
Yep.
So when you look at some of the proposed, I don't know how Virginia really fits in either one. I know theoretically Virginia's got the DC market, but
okay, but doesn't VT have that? Like, why is VT not being like?
I feel like supposedly everybody's got the DC television market. Like, when Maryland went to the Big Ten, it was because of the Baltimore DC television market. When VT, it's because of the Baltimore DC television market. Now Virginia's got the Baltimore DC television. It seems like the Baltimore DC television market is very confused about who they root for at the college level.
So that the one team that I hadn't heard, I heard UM mentioned, but not by people who actually feel like they're in the know. And it's like, okay, but what's going to happen? They're not going to get left out. Someone's going to pick them up, and it would be probably the Big Ten. It's funny. I hear Arizona State. Stanford's been a lot more successful than both of them. And I haven't heard them yet. Like, academically, I get it, but why wouldn't that work with the Big Ten? Like, I don't
I feel like Stanford's actually kind of a natural to go to the Big Ten. They're very good in a bunch of sports, swimming, baseball, gymnastics, that the Big Ten doesn't have a lot of representation in. Like, you don't see a lot of Big Ten teams in the College World Series. You don't see a lot of Big Ten teams in the swimming events. Stanford's really good at all those sports, and they lend a huge amount of academic credibility. So if you're going to continue to pretend that these things matter, and that it's not all 100% about college football, then Stanford's, I think, a very natural fit. I would be, they're not a big state school. And I don't know how they do in the San Francisco television market. I haven't looked at college football ratings in that market to know if Stanford or Cal is the dominant team. So maybe they don't fit in that sense, but Stanford brings a lot to the table. I would actually expect them to get into this. And I mean, unless they're going to do something really weird and join the Ivy League or something, which they probably could do. They certainly have the money. So
academic prowess
and the academic prowess. So I think they're a natural. And I think, honestly, the schools being discussed to the SEC out of the ACC are kind of naturals, too. For those who don't know, Clemson, North Carolina, Florida State, Virginia. Virginia doesn't really fit, although they can be like the new Vanderbilt, I guess.
Yeah. Good whatever.
Good academics. They're good in basketball every once in a while. They're good in the minor sports.
Yeah.
I guess they sort of fit in that mode. I think the other three perfectly fit. To
They're
me,
Southern.
Clemson's already an SEC school.
Yep.
They've got a fan base that is absolutely insane and full of meth addicts. They've got a coach that never shuts up about the Bible while doing completely scummy things and trying to hoard all the money in the world. They've got a Southern fan base with no television market whatsoever. Who you can't. I think Clemson games are on like 8 channels during football season.
So weird.
All the restaurants that aren't in any other, like, there's no Bojangles to be found anywhere in Florida other than Orlando. There's like 9 of them in Clemson. And like all those products that you see advertised at SEC games, you're like, I've never seen that store before. I don't know what that company is. Clemson's got that. Clemson, to me, honestly, it's already an SEC school. They should have gone like 5 years ago.
Okay, so let me ask you, when you and I talked about it, but we haven't done it here, like this idea that I think is getting quieter and quieter, but the ACC and the Pac-12 and the remnants of the Big 12, trying to figure out where they fit. I'll give you credit. You've been a big proponent of, I just want good games. Like the reality is college football with the money, a lot of the times you've seen these schools be so scared to play other top competition that it's affected the actual action on the field. And you brought up something yesterday that was interesting. You're like, look, at least we'll get good games. Like if it's 2 major conferences.
Well, here's reality. College football is broken. College football has been broken a long time. And everybody at every school in the country has to look in the mirror and say, we did it to ourselves. Here's the truth. Here's a plain fact, whether you, as a fan of whatever school, choose to accept it or not. When Cam Newton was allowed to just completely cheat the system with no penalty for him or Auburn whatsoever, when they tried to issue the penalty of his father can't be around the program, and then his father showed up at the Heisman Trophy ceremony hugging Cam, when the NCAA and all the member institutions decided to let that go, college football was permanently broken from that point. And you noticed from that point on, the SEC was like, okay, screw it. There's no rules. We're just going to go hog wild. And they have completely taken over college football since then. And to a large degree, I have no problem with this. It is everybody else's fault, because 30, 40 years ago, when ESPN decided we are going to have 9 channels and put every college football game we can possibly get on television, and everybody looked at themselves and said, well, instead of putting at, the numbers like our friend Q has talked about over the years, put $1,000 a month in the pockets of these players whose parents are living in abject poverty, and share the wealth a little bit. When instead of going that route, the NCAA decided to go, the tight ends coach and assistant recruiting coordinator, that should be a $900,000 a year job. Defensive coordinator should be a $3.5 million job. Offensive coordinator should be a $5 million a year job. When they decided to go that route, you doomed us to this as a long-term consequence. And now it's the Wild West, and that's the way it is. And the fan base, the Clay Travises of the world were correct about this. The SEC cares more than anybody else. Their fans care more than anybody else, and they are willing to back that care with money and television time. And ever since then, it's been the Wild West. We're just getting into the sort of late game stages of it, and that's what it is.
Well, and what I wanted to get to is, fine, we have the SEC and the Big Ten. I think it will be 2 20-team conferences. I don't know if they'll go more than that. What happened to the rest? Like, to me, and you were like,
no. I mean, honestly, maybe they become the new FCS. I genuinely don't know. Look, there's going to be a few names out there. Can Notre Dame, in theory, figure out some way to remain independent? Probably. Although, if I'm the Big Ten and I'm the SEC schools, and this is my opportunity to freeze Notre Dame out after Notre Dame has spent the last 3 decades telling it to stick it where the sun don't shine, I might say, okay, you know what, Notre Dame, for the longest time we have needed you for television and money games. We don't need you for that anymore. Go pound sand. I might actually do that to Notre Dame. But in theory, could the service academies, because people have this weird attachment to service academy football, maybe figure out a way to stay alive financially? Yeah. But, we're talking about like this ACC and Pac-12 leftovers. Who's paying to watch NC State play Oregon State? Who's turning in at 10 o'clock at night to watch Georgia Tech play Arizona? I don't see how financially you're going to get a television deal that's going to give you enough revenue to allow you to compete. Honestly, what's the answer? Every school who has a billionaire needs to get that billionaire to decide. Which funny, kind of like the way Russian sports work, where it's just like these oil dudes willing to throw, tens of millions of dollars at these random sports things to compete each other. But basically, the only way these other programs stay alive are the T. Boone Pickens / Phil Knight models, where you have these ultra wealthy people who are willing to throw ungodly amounts of money at their school's football program being competitive. I don't see another path right at the moment. Maybe one will emerge. Maybe the SEC, the Big Ten, won't provide enough television by themselves, and we'll see some sort of remnant conference, the leftovers come together. Is it possible? Sure. I mean, like Boise State has sort of survived on the margins of the current system for decades. Is there some way to do that? Maybe. Because we've also seen there's a lot of talented kids out there that in, let's say it's 220 team leagues, that's only 40 teams. There's going to be a lot of kids who fall the crack who are really talented football players. So there might be enough left over to build a few Boise State-like programs who get enough kids who were left behind for academics or they were late bloomers or whatever the case is, and survive and field competitive football teams. But in terms of national championships, in terms of making the playoffs, they're going to be largely irrelevant. Maybe, maybe once every 20 years situation where like Cincinnati slipped in this year. Maybe someone can do that, but it's not going to be common. It's going to be very, very, it's going to be more difficult than it was for independent schools back in the 80s.
And look, you have Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, Oklahoma State, Baylor that will at least be around the top 15, at least contend. So to me, it's like, and I get it if they're boring, who gives a shit, but like for them to not have any shot to continue, I'm curious.
Is that really that different from the current system, Lubes? There's a lot of programs.
Yeah.
People have a lot of interest in. Go back to the service academies. The service academies start the season, know they have exactly zero shot to win a national championship. They have realistically zero shot to get into the playoffs to win the national championships, but people still have a huge interest in service academy football for whatever reason. Maybe it's patriotic or, they served in the Army and Navy, whatever. They feel some connection to those programs. People will still feel connection. If you're from Lubbock, Texas, you're going to love Texas Tech football on whatever plane of existence it has. If it drops down to FCS, look, there's nothing wrong with FCS football. I enjoy FCS football. I watch a lot of FCS football. If there were former Division I programs that end up dropping down and making that a more competitive environment so that North Dakota State doesn't run wild every year in FCS and run through the FCS playoffs like a knife through butter, I don't necessarily view that as a bad thing. Would it be disappointing for some of those fans? Maybe. But again, I watch North Dakota State games. They sell out every game. Those people are very enthusiastic about their program. The answer is I don't know what's going to happen to these. I think there is still space for a third super conference, for example. Is there a space for 5 super conferences? No. But
the leftovers.
I can tell you as a fan of the sport, if you have a league that's got like the leftovers of the Pac-12 and the leftovers of the Big 12 and a few schools like a Boise State, I would watch football from that league. If it was, Utah playing Boise State and Baylor playing Texas Tech, both of them playing the Arizona schools, like I would watch games from that league. the Pac-12 for the last 4 or 5 years hasn't been that different from this model. I watch the midnight Pac-12 game every week.
Yeah.
So there will be people like me who still watch. Will that generate enough revenue to keep them nationally championship competitive? Probably not. You're going to have to be creative about it. Like Boise State, who people have argued for the playoffs a few times. Like Cincinnati, who got it. It's not like Cincinnati has the same or even similar budget to Alabama football, but they got into the playoffs and they got the opportunity to play Alabama. There is a path. It's a very difficult path, but there's a path.
Well, that's what I think.
You're going to have really, honestly, your coaches are going to have to earn their money. They're going to have to be that guy who can spot the 3-star who's going to be a first-round draft pick.
Yeah.
They're going to have to spot, the linemen that people ignore, who, when you put all 5 together of them, all of a sudden you have a very competitive offensive line. Your coaches are going to have to be great, but there is a path forward.
Well, and I think it's somewhere in the middle of full on. They have to go to the FCS, and full on they have to go to the SEC. And look, between the Big 12, Pac-12, ACC, whatever is left, if you put that together, that should be interesting. Yeah, it won't be as good as the Big 10 or SEC, but it should be able to be, like you said, like these other conferences where overall it's but you have the best of that conference. So UCF, a Boise State, a Cincinnati rise up. That's my hope, because I wouldn't want these, because you do get them once in a while to compete. Yes, you're right. They don't win. And Cincinnati got to the playoff and it was another disaster, like you said it would be. But at least they got there. It was, to me, someone else thrown in the mix. And I hope that totally doesn't get thrown away. But to me, if you're the ACC and the Pac-12, to flirt with this merger loose thing is a dumbass idea. The teams that can make it in the SEC Big Ten have to go. And then the rest that's left, that's a whole different ballgame.
I mean, look, to me, if there is a third super league, and we're only using the term super here based on size, not quality, is it going to be the MAC of the super leagues? Yes, it is. Yeah. But are there people, myself included, who tune in every Tuesday and Thursday nights during November to watch those MACtion games? 100%. Yes, and I will be there for those games too, because I love the sport, because and gambling, but I genuinely love the sport. I watch those games. I will continue to watch those games. Is there a path for that league? Yes. It won't be the revenue generator. It'll be in some ways closer to European soccer, where, like, you look at the EPL, there's only like 5 or 6 teams in the EPL who really have that unbelievable budget to win championships.
Yeah.
But everybody else does the best they can. I feel like it'll be somewhere closer to that model. And what happens to schools that are currently in the MAC? That I don't know. That again, you may wind up in FCS.
Yeah, they're going to FCS.
And again, by the way, as someone who enjoys FCS football, making FCS a little bit more competitive by dropping these schools into FCS, I don't think would be a bad thing. Again, I like the FCS, but I don't need North Dakota State to win every game 42-2 on the way to their 12th FCS championship in 13 years.
Yeah. Look, in some ways it'll be better, because again, you won't get these weeks where you get one decent game and every game sucks. Like you would think going forward, then every week you'll get 2, 3, 4 really good matchups.
You would think you will have, at least 3 feature television. You will have a noon, a 4, and a primetime television matchup that you want to watch pretty much every week. Some of that, honestly, is going to depend on the Big Ten and the SEC's willingness to play each other a couple of times a year. And that to me is the most interesting thing. And again, it's going to be very interesting if Miami winds up in the Big Ten and Florida State and Florida wind up in the SEC. Is Florida State going to drop Miami too? I don't know. I don't want to see it. I think fans from both fan bases would be very upset by it.
No.
But I don't know what the one thing we haven't talked about in terms of these breakdowns is what is the willingness for these two super leagues to play each other.
Running late, but I really wanted to get in that conversation, and because a lot of people haven't talked about it this specifically, so I'm glad we got to it. But it is time, as we do this each and every week, around this time, probably about 10 minutes earlier, but around this time, we go to the professor's world famous Big Board Top 5.
Okay. And so this sort of relates to a topic that's been brought up in our conversation, in our text messages over here. The great Jim Sarney is talking about some women's sports in the WNBA. And of course, the biggest story in the WNBA right now is the fact that Brittany Griner is rotting away in a Russian prison. And that has been a big topic of conversation this week. Her wife, I guess, talked to members of the Biden administration, and there's a lot of conversation about, well, if this was a man, she'd already be let out. They would have never taken a male athlete in the first place. And I don't disagree with any of that. I think Brittany Griner is a victim. And by the way, to the degree I'm a fan of any WNBA player, I'm a fan of Brittany Griner. She was the one who basically ended UConn and Gino Ariema's reign of absolute supremacy over women's college basketball. And there is no program I dislike more than UConn women's basketball and Gino Ariema. So I'm a fan of hers. Like I said, to as much as any individual is responsible, she was responsible for knocking them off the mountaintop. So I'm a Brittany Griner fan. And I feel like Brittany Griner has been caught in a political, very bad situation. But my question is what, if you are one of her advocates, do you want the United States government to do about Brittany Griner? Because the only thing I have read that has been proposed was that I guess Russia proposed a prisoner exchange of Brittany Griner for Victor Bout.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, Victor Bout was the largest arms dealer in the world. He was personally responsible for like half the wars on the planet in the 90s and early 2000s because he was selling off the stockpiles of Russian weapons to every rogue state on the planet he could find. And Russia thinks that's a fair trade for Brittany Griner. Look, I'm a Brittany Griner fan. I'm not giving Victor Bout for the entire combined. I don't care if Putin grabs everybody in the WNBA and everybody in the NBA at the same time. I wouldn't give you Victor Bout for all of them combined. That's insane. I wouldn't give you Victor Bout for anybody. He's one of the most dangerous people to ever live. But I put some thought into it. And this week's big board is the big board of athletes Putin can have. Now, if this is some sort of trade for Brittany Griner, that works for me. I'm absolutely for that. Or on the other hand, if Putin just wants to come grab these people off the street, I don't really give a damn either.
I can only imagine.
I would prefer the trade for Brittany Griner. Again, I'm a Brittany Griner fan. But again, if Putin just wants to randomly grab these people out of airports, it's not really going to hurt my feelings very much either. That's with this week's big board. The big board of athletes that Vladimir Putin and Russia can have.
Okay. What's number 5?
Do you have any guesses, Lubie? You want to guess any names?
I have. I don't want to take all of them. All
right. I'm guessing you didn't take number 5 because it's a little bit off the beaten path. But number 5, Putin can have Ryan Lochte.
Good for you for remembering Lochte.
I honestly don't know if Ryan Lochte is retired at this point. I don't know if he's plotting yet another return to the Olympics. And like every Olympic American swimmer, if he shows up at the Olympics and he makes the team, you know he's going to get like at least 3 gold medals from the relay. If you just make the team, you're pretty much guaranteed to get at least 2 or 3 gold medals from the relays. And let's be honest here. Russian swimming hasn't been what it's been over the years. So if Ryan Lochte is in fact attempting a comeback, Russia might benefit from him. I don't think he's individually winning anything, but he's probably good enough to make the Russian team. But the key point here is we know Ryan Lochte has already starred in a couple of reality television series that I have never watched, and you couldn't pay me to watch because he's Ryan Lochte. On the other hand, if there were a reality television series where Ryan Lochte was locked away in some Siberian gulag and losing fingers to frostbite and had to use his stupid-ass grills because his teeth were falling out from lack of protein, I 100% would watch that series where Ryan Lochte has to be a prisoner in Siberia for a couple of years. Let's be honest here. Even in Rio a few years ago, after he had won a few gold medals, when he got in trouble for trashing that Brazilian gas station bathroom, and Brazil really wanted to arrest him, would anybody in America really have felt better, cared if Brazil had locked Ryan Lochte in jail for like 10 years for that? I know at least like 10 people who actively wanted that to happen, who wanted the Brazilians to like storm the gates of the American Athlete Village and pull Ryan Lochte out by his hair and throw him into the worst favela-filled prison they could find in all of Rio de Janeiro. So, number 5, I think a very obvious pick, Vladimir Putin, if you'd like Ryan Lochte for your swimming team, or better yet, for your prison system, he's available.
Good for you remembering Lochte. All right, so that's 5. I can't imagine what 4 is.
Number 4, and in this one, Lubie, we're just trying to spare America the expense. It's not about the athletes themselves. It's about what is inevitable for them, and that is the combined couple of Hope Solo and Jeremy Stevens. Now, I'm not a fan of either of these people. I'm not going to pretend I am, but the main point is here, between the two of them, they already have something like 9 arrests. Like, it is inevitable that at some point, both of these people are going to prison for an extended period of time, and Russia might as well pick up the tab for that instead of the United States. If Vladimir Putin wants to pay to keep Hope Solo and Jeremy Stevens in prison instead of it coming out of my tax dollars, because let's be honest, I live in Florida, there's at least like a 40% chance that their eventual prison sentence will be in the state of Florida. They reek of the people who are going to live in Ocala at some point and wind up getting arrested for something phenomenally stupid. By the way, if you don't remember, people, remember they had to get married at the courthouse. Why? Because the night before their wedding, Hope Solo got arrested for domestic violence against her nephew. So she literally got out of her hearing and went and got married at the courthouse to Jeremy Stevens. Jeremy Stevens was part of probably the ugliest rape case at the University of Washington since Ted Bundy was attending the University of Washington. I'm going to spare you the details. Feel free to Google it yourself. Just it involved a bathroom, a date rape, and a bowel movement. So let's just leave it at that. And then later he was arrested for drunk driving the team bus when he went to pick up Hope Solo. He picked up Hope Solo in the U.S. women's national team bus and got arrested for drunk driving that evening. Again, these people are inevitably going to wind up in prison some point. Russia might as well pick up the tab instead of the United States. Vlad, if you want to trade these Vladimir Putin for these two, I say go for it. That's a trade I fully endorse. We'll even throw in a domestic abuser to be named later.
There you go. So that's 4.
Number three isn't really about anything this guy has necessarily done. It's about the downward spiral that we were seeing. And number 3 is, at this point, Vladimir Putin, you can have Aaron Rodgers. I don't know what it is about the Green Bay Packers quarterback, and once they hit a certain age, they just become the worst human beings on the planet. But we have now seen it like 2 or 3 times in a row. And if I'm the Green Bay Packers at this point, once my quarterback hits like 33, 34 years, I'll just get them the hell out of town because it just gets worse and worse. And is there any question that Aaron Rodgers is going to do something even dumber at some point during the season that is going to make people like me, who once loved Aaron Rodgers, who once thought he was my favorite player in the NFL, hate him even more? Like, look, you've now downgraded. Last year it was the whole COVID thing, and I want to get married and have kids, so I don't want to get the COVID shot. And then I'm dumping my fiance and starting in with some girl named Blue from Earth, who I'm going to get a tattoo matching her tattoo. I don't know if you saw that story this week, but feel free to look up Aaron Rodgers weirdo tattoo. There's really no doubt Aaron Rodgers is in the Brett Favre downward spiral. It's only going to get worse. It's only going to make me dislike him more. Aaron Rodgers really lost me when he went on the air and did the Pat McAfee thing and was like, look, I've done my research. I'm not getting the COVID shot. This, that, and the other thing. I'm allergic, blah, blah, blah. Anybody who says I've done what, you know what his research was? He talked to Joe Rogan. That was his research.
There you go.
Again, I don't have problems with people who had philosophical or health objections to the COVID shot. If you actually did research, cool. Yeah. If you actually looked up medical journals, cool. Don't tell me you did your research when you talked to Joe Rogan about it. That's not doing research. Okay. And honestly, I would feel worse if I were the only person who felt this way about Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. But here's the bottom line on Aaron Rodgers. When you are a relatively young guy, good looking, rich multimillionaire, successful, much admired NFL quarterback, and your own mother doesn't speak to you and doesn't want to speak to you, has been publicly asked about it. He's like, yeah, I have no desire to talk to Aaron. When that's the way your mom feels, you really need to look in the mirror and ask yourself, am I a shithead? Because, like, 100% the answer is yes. If you get to a point in your life where your own mom doesn't want to talk to you, it's you. You're the problem. It's not everybody else. Like, everybody's done terrible shit. Everybody's mom knows about the horrible stuff you've done, and your mother still loves you anyway. When your own mom doesn't want to talk to you, you're the problem, Aaron Rodgers, and it's just getting worse. And so, Vlad, you can start a football league around Aaron Rodgers. I'm fine with that. They're not going to win a Super Bowl again anyway. The best days of Aaron Rodgers are gone. He's been replaced. So go ahead, ship him out. Number 2, and this one is absolutely about things he's done. It's got nothing to do with future stuff. He's done enough already. Vladimir Putin, you could take Trevor Bauer.
Trevor Bauer.
It's not that I'm that horrified by Trevor Bauer, what Trevor Bauer's done. I mean, I am. You're a sick pervert. There's no question about it. It's that at some point in the near future, I would guess probably after this season, Trevor Bauer's going to win an appeal. His baseball suspension is going to be lifted. It's not really going to be 4.5 years or whatever the number, crazy number of games was. He's going to get back sooner rather than later. And I have already had it up to my eyes. I've had 100% all I can take of Trevor Bauer trying to explain how normal it is that he likes choke sex and likes to punch women unconscious and then sodomize them. And that's a perfectly normal sexual way to be. Like, dude, I get it. In this era, we're supposed to accept people's sexuality. I got no problem with that. I'm an advocate for that. But you are a sick bastard.
Yeah, being the shit out of him. Like, come on.
Like, and it would be fair enough if it were just Trevor Bauer. It's Trevor Bauer's fans who drive me crazy. Who, like, honestly, go on Twitter and like, well, you know, if two people really love each other and one wants to choke the other and punch her until she gets unconscious and then have anal sex with each other, well, that's a very normal, healthy sexual lifestyle to live. No, it's not. You're a sick bastard. And honestly, you were already a complete jackass even before we knew what a sick pervert you were. Like, Trevor Bauer, you're too sick for pornography. You'd have to go to Germany to make the kind of pornography you like. Even on the internet, that would be banned and illegal.
That's bad. Yeah, exactly.
Like, you can find any kind of internet porn you like. You can't find the kind of porn Trevor Bauer likes.
Yep.
When you're too sick for the internet, when you are too sick for 4chan.
That's bad.
We've had enough of you, Trevor Bauer. Feel free to go to Russia. There's probably some Russian women who are in bad enough economic circumstances that they'd like to hook up with you.
Oh, my God.
It's the only place, probably. But Trevor Bauer. And then number 1, Lubie, I think is the most obvious trade of all time. Number 1, athletes who Vladimir Putin can have. It's Kyrie Irving.
Oh, Irving.
We've gotten everything we can get possibly out of Kyrie Irving. Like, the Uncle Drew movie wasn't bad, but nobody wants a sequel. We've got the best out of your basketball. Cleveland won their championship. And we might as well take advantage of Kyrie Irving's ability to absolutely destroy franchises by sending him to Russia.
Yes. Oh,
like,
my God.
honestly, if we could somehow figure out a way to trade both Kyrie Irving and James Harden to Russia for Brittany Griner, I don't feel like Putin would last a year. I feel like between those two, they would absolutely collapse Russia within a year. Kyrie by himself, probably 2 years. Like, the entire Red Army would be like, I don't want to play with this guy anymore. Let's just, we're going to move to Ukraine. We're going to move to Poland. And honestly, the stuff Kyrie Irving likes to talk about, Russians are very interested in flat earth and space travel all that nonsense and conspiracy theories. Russia loves that crap. Kyrie Irving would fit perfectly here. So, again, America's already got all of its use. Would anybody really be upset if instead of playing for the Sacramento Kings for the next decade, Kyrie Irving was locked in a Russian prison? I wouldn't be. I don't think there's really anybody outside of Kyrie Irving's family who would give a damn. And I don't think as long as he got the same salary, Kyrie Irving's family would care either. So, and again, might as well take advantage of Kyrie Irving's ability to absolutely collapse those around him. by sending him to Vladimir Putin in Russia. I don't think the Putin government would last 2 years if we got Kyrie Irving over there.
That's great.
So those are our big board, our top 5 athletes that Vladimir Putin can have.
Give us Griner, take them.
Yes. You can't have Victor Bout, but you can 100% have Ryan Lochte.
And Lochtey's great. I give you credit for not putting up Brady. I thought Brady would be in there somewhere just for hate.
I know, like, honestly, everywhere Tom Brady goes, it works out well for him, and I don't want to see Russia. Like, Tom Brady would go to Russia, and somehow the Soviet Union would be back 6 months later. Like, all those countries that used to be in the Soviet Union would want to rejoin, and Vladimir Putin would be super powerful. So, no, I'm not trying to trade him Todd Berry. I only want franchise killers going over to Russia. Again, if we could work out a way to get both Harden and Kyrie over to the Soviet Union in a trade for Griner, I feel like the Soviet Union wouldn't last a year. Like, Putin, even Putin would just be like, he'd be like Steve Nash. He'd be like, screw it. I don't want to deal with this anymore. Like, I got my money. I'm moving to Fiji.
Done.
Screw you guys. I'm going. He's like, he'd be like, I thought I had it, but Hardinsky and Kyrie Irving, I can't deal with it anymore. I don't care how much money I can steal.
I can't. You're not wrong. That was a great list. It literally, the chat exploded. Like, oh my God, that's so true. Go. Take them, please. That will definitely be on South Florida Live. Just check out the YouTube page if you aren't subscribed. Also the Facebook as well. South Florida Live at South Florida Live on Facebook, Instagram.
Where is Defo this week? Is he back in Atlantic City?
He's at Atlantic City. You know that. He'll be back Monday. He comes back today.
He'll be back Monday if he hasn't already pawned his plane ticket.
Exactly. I think he's coming back.
I think it's like 70. We'll say 70-30 that he'll actually be back Monday.
You never know. It's hit or miss. But it's never hit or miss with the Professor's Big Board Top 5. He did it again. He not only makes us laugh, he makes us learn. So there you go. If you missed anything, check that out later. If you missed this gentleman, he's each and every week at about 7:50 to about 8:30. Next week, he'll do it again. Professor, we love you. Thank you, my friend. And have fun, and I will talk to you soon.
You have a great one, Lubes.
All right, be welcome, man. The Professor. He does it each and every week, man. I give him credit. It's spectacular. Coming up next, the one and only Mike Mayo. You check him out each and every day here at 12 noon. You'll check him out today at 12 noon with Mike Mayo's Lunchbox. Coming up next, his alter ego, the Gambling Gourmet, will join us. Talk a little food, talk a little sports, maybe a little life right here. The Defo Show. No Defo, just Lubie on South Florida Live.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched. Steaks hand cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Recently we realized it's not just hurricane season that can hurt us. Any time of year, things can happen to your home or business. And the insurance company can be your friend, but they also can be your enemy. Horizon Public Adjusters, Justina Testa, are here for you to help this process go so much easier. Before you call the insurance company, call Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa at 954-809-8752. Would you go into court without an attorney? So why would you go up against an insurance company without Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa? 7 to 10 times more money recovered with a public adjuster than if you went on your own. If there's no recovery, there's no fee. Give them a call at 954-809-8752. Why go up against insurance companies alone when you can have Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa on your side?
He'll fight Brian Cox in the locker room. He'll challenge Bill Parcells to a verbal shout out. He'll stare down Johnny Chan while holding pocket twos.
And then he goes
Mike
to
Mayo,
the
the
London
Gambling
Business
Gourmet.
School for the savants.
How about that? Yeah.
I will crush
London
your
School
hopes
of
and
Finance.
dreams with it.
Mike
Oh,
Mayo, the Gambling Gourmet, joins us here.
I do all those things, and I also crush your hopes and dreams with a 3-word text giving you the bad news about game one.
Well, this was particularly brutal, and Michael. I thank you for doing that.
The modern day odd couple, Defo and Lubie, are on now. It is, of course, the Defo Show.
All righty, welcome back to the Defo Show. No Defo, just Lubie here on South Florida Live. This gentleman you can check out also on South Florida Live each and every day at 12 p.m. with his own gig, his own show, Mike Mayo's Lunchbox. Right now, each and every week, he joins us about 8:35 to 8:40. Talk a little food, talk a little sports, of course. Talk a little gambling. He is the Gambling Gourmet himself. Good morning, Mr. Mike Mayo. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing okay. Can you hear me today, Lubie?
You sound spectacular, sir. I saw you playing with the light. I'm proud of you. You got some lighting. You're doing the whole thing.
I have the handheld. I figure once I got a thing that's working, I'm not going to start messing around and going back and forth because you never know what those screwy settings do. How are you doing today? I don't know why I'm very groggy this morning.
You had a lot of ice cream.
Off.
I feel like after you drink like bowls of ice cream, like you just want to sleep for the next 2 days. Like and Jackson's ice cream, it's not only good, but it's funny. It really lets you know the difference in ice cream because there's a richness to it that I don't get from a lot of other ice creams. And Linda, the owner, was talking about it, and like their ice cream is so real that you can. It's just different. Like it just has a different richness, and feel to it compared to a lot of other ice creams. Like I did feel the rest of the day like, oof.
Right. There is, the word that the foodies use is mouthfeel, and the mouthfeel of their ice cream is incredibly rich and deep because of, like you said, high quality ingredients, cream, butterfat. Ice cream is measured by butterfat content. I've never really asked what their butterfat content is. I assume that it's pretty high because again, when you use really good rich cream and you mix it with the high quality ingredients, you get a good product. And you can taste the difference when you go there. And that's why, look, some people gripe about the prices up there. They're dealing with a lot of things and the cost of ingredients, and they treat their labor well. They pay people well. And I'm more than happy to pay a little bit extra for ice cream that we could really taste the difference. Yep. And you could bring that quart or pint home and it'll last a while because you just have 1 or 2 spoonfuls and you can say, okay, that's good, that gave me a good rich flavor and I don't need to eat the whole pint like sometimes you do with the Haagen-Dazs or Ben and Jerry's. So anyway, it was fun out there with Necky and the Visit Lauderdale crew yesterday. And then I dabbled in the poker tournament at the Hard Rock last night. They're running this multi-day, they do it this time of year, I guess like once a month, but it's $150 buy-in. It's pretty cheap, and they guarantee $100,000 in the prize pool, and they usually get at least between 150 and last time it was like 206,000 in the prize pool. Last time I went pretty deep out of a field of like 1,600 and change. I think I finished like 45th or 47th.
Nice. Jeez, good for you.
Cashed, but in order to make the real money there, you got to like go to the final table until you get the thousands. This was like I ended up turning 150 into like $600 or $700, which is like, it sounds okay for $150 investment, but then you realize that you had to put in like 20 hours to do that. It's like do better working at McDonald's. Exactly. But no, it's fun. My friend Sean, Poker Sean, who comes out to some of the remotes for the lunchbox, he played. He got knocked out during that. They run 6 flights of these, so it's like morning and afternoons on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then actually 1 on Saturday just in the morning. So there's actually 7 flights of this, and My friend Sean, he got knocked out in the Wednesday daytime. He went home, took a nap, showed up a little bit late for Wednesday night, and now he's like sitting 7th overall with like
Oh, wow.
262,000 chips, which is always a good place to be because this tournament now, once you make it to day 2, you are getting paid. You're in the money. And it's just
nice.
a matter of how much. And I think on Sunday, when they come back, they'll be about 150 players left, and probably a first prize of about $30,000, which for $150 is good. Me last night, I just had one of those nights where like everything went wrong, and it just like was grinding on a short stack. Hands I didn't play. Like I was thinking I was doing something goofy with a 6-7 offsuit. 2 people went all in, and I said I can't do it. And then of course the flop comes 6-6 deuce, and then a 7. So then like I would have, but it's a tale of woe that nobody wants to hear. The bottom line is I'm gonna go, try again probably on Saturday daytime, give it one more shot. But it's a fun time there, and the Hard Rock. A lot of players are in Las Vegas now for the World Series of Poker. Actually, a friend of mine, Willie, just got back. He tried to satellite in. He didn't want to pay the full $10,000. He tried a couple of those like $1,000 satellites that they have and did not make it in. But he did cash in one of those like huge tournaments. They have like that $500 one where they get like 20,000 people, and he cashed in that. So anyway, people are in Vegas now. It's that time of year because I guess it's not hot enough here for them, so they go to Vegas.
So I like to always say, and I always put it in our descriptions, what's on our table today. And I always like you are really good about, what you have eaten or what you will eat, especially coming into the weekend. And we love the way you describe food. Even though you can't eat 7 hot dogs in 10 minutes, we're trying to get over that. What are you planning on doing this weekend when it comes to food? Let's see. I love Let's See South Florida because the greatest recommendations come up. People have actually gotten, at least what you're letting through has gotten a lot more decorum. You're not seeing a lot of places being ripped as much. It's more positive and a lot less of this place sucked. This place was horrible, which to me is, just tell me what's good. I don't need to know what's bad. I'm going to avoid what's bad. I want to know what's good. I want to know what I should go out to.
Yeah. And if somebody's going to, I don't want a place just being ripped like it's Yelp, because we never wanted to turn Let's See South Florida into another Yelp. But I did want to have people who raise issues like overall, like maybe a restaurant that charges a automatic gratuity. I don't want necessarily people ripping the restaurant, because a lot of restaurants are doing that. But I do want to have a discussion about should restaurants be doing that, or should it just be for bigger parties? Like those are the kind of like bigger picture issues that I thought, sometimes do make for good conversations. But I don't need to have a place rip saying, "Oh, I'm never going to go back there because they put on an auto gratuity." But anyway, as far as trying to we definitely want to spotlight the positive and new places that are on the radar. And in that vein, I'm going to be going to a new mini regional chain later today with my man Dickstein up in Best of Delray Beachland, and it's called Batch. It's not the cookie. I hate when the places have the same name as something else that originally existed. There's a Batch Cookies in Fort Lauderdale. No, this is Batch Gastropub, I guess. It's like kind of a southern themed place that now has places
So the
in
Fort Lauderdale
Miami.
one is now in Delray too? I didn't realize that they had one in Delray.
No, and not only it's I guess it started in Miami, and there were branches first in Miami. I think 2 of them, and then and then it's now spread like the plague, like wildfire. No, it started off in Miami, and now they came to Fort Lauderdale up on Federal Highway, and that spot right along near Flagler Village and Victoria Park. And then there is a batch down in Delray Beach in this complex of stores that's out further west of the turnpike on Atlantic. I think they call it the Delray Marketplace, which is also confusing because there's a Delray Market, which is like a food hall downtown.
Oh, geez.
But anyway, Batch, there's a whole bunch of restaurants in this complex. I'm going to meet Dickstein for a late lunch after the lunchbox today at Batch Gastropub, and it's I guess it has like that southern style cuisine.
Yep.
A lot of we were talking about chicken and waffles yesterday. They got chicken and waffles. They've got
the biscuits are freaking it. So you always give us good tips. I'll give you a tip. We went back a few months ago. Shirley's best friend and her boyfriend lived like around the corner, and it was like their like regular spot. So we went there, met them. Now you talk about this. It's not cheap. It's for like Southern food. It's elevated, quote unquote, but it's amazing. And their biscuits they make like from scratch. They
Is
are
that only at brunch?
fast.
Because I'm looking at the
I
lunch
don't know. Yeah,
menu
I don't
now,
know.
and I don't see the biscuits, but maybe I'll
That's
ask if I could
annoying.
get
Because
them.
that's annoying because their biscuits are
I'm
freaking
looking
ridiculous.
at their, like, I guess, lunch and dinner menu, but let me see here. Delray brunch, but that's only, I
They did
guess, on the
brunch. They
weekend,
did do
certain
brunch. I'm
time.
not gonna lie. So I don't know. They
Yeah.
haven't had the
Yeah,
regular
they got
menu.
biscuits and gravy. They got the chicken and waffles. They got hash, Carolina hash. So I guess it's become quite popular for the 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 weekend brunch scene.
Yes, it's
And
big.
yeah, look at that. They got buttermilk fried chicken, straight up fried chicken.
Yep.
They got
Like fries.
pecan whiskey candied bacon. And of course, they do have all the drinks and the unlimited, I guess, Bloody Marys and things like that on the weekends, or maybe not unlimited, $10 Bloody Marys. That's not bad. All right, but I'm going there for lunch, so I don't know. Maybe I could ask them if the kitchen could sneak me a
Make a move.
biscuit, but we'll see. It's always good to know. Thank you for the tip. I do
Yes.
like a good biscuit,
Yeah.
and yeah, so
The
that's
atmosphere is really
that's
cool. Like they do, it's a really good vibe, and the service was really good. And they had some. They did, you're when it comes to alcohol, you're very adventurous. I think they do their own like they make their own. It's a whiskey or something, and they let us try it, and it was really good. Like it was really good. So that's another thing that it's like they have a special alcohol. I would ask about that if they don't offer it, which they probably will. Ask about that because it's something that they actually put it into the syrup, but they also have it as an alcohol that they'll make as a base for alcoholic drinks as well. So I would ask them about their specialty alcohol that is theirs because that was really good. They gave us each a shot of it and it was amazing. It went down super smooth.
nice. So I don't know why, but like the website for Batch Gastropub shows Miami and Delray Beach. It doesn't show Fort Lauderdale. And then there's something called the Batch New Southern Kitchen and Tap.
Yes,
So maybe no, but it's like the same logo, but maybe there's different ownership of the. I guess it looks like the Fort Lauderdale one is paired up with the West Palm Beach. There's now a West Palm Beach location. It looks like the exact same menu. So I am confused as to why they separated out the Miami and Delray ones from the Fort Lauderdale and West Palm Beach ones. It's always kind of a mystery with these kind of regional change. I guess maybe different ownership groups, but looks like the same exact logo, except one is called Gastropub and the other is called New Southern Kitchen and Tap. Yeah. So anyway, that's all the minutia of the business.
I would hey, you'll enjoy it. It's really good. You should have
now. Let me now. I'm going in the Yelp vein of a place that I did not have. So one of the reasons I'm grouchy today is because at the poker tables last night, usually the food pickings are very lean. They have like these like terrible microwave meals that they were serving at the Hard Rock Poker Room, but nobody likes those, so I don't even know if they're offering them anymore. But lately, what's happened is they've been getting some people come in from the Bowl, which is like the Asian Chinese fusion restaurant that's there at the Hard Rock that has good. It's good. Usually it's good, but like last night I committed a defo, which is I ordered wrong. Well, I mean,
an Asian fusion place wrong.
I wanted a noodle dish because when you're at a poker table, you just want something in a bowl that you could eat with chopsticks. You don't want to start getting sticky fingers and all that stuff. And so they they came around, they took our orders, they said, oh, it's going to take about a half hour, which I knew was a lie because it's like they're collecting 50 orders and then they have to go get them all filled and bring them back. They were pretty efficient, but it got into my head because it's like, oh, I don't want to go bust before the food arrives. So like I purposely didn't play some hands and I was conserving my chips, and it's just the wrong way to go about things. So meanwhile, the food finally showed up, and I didn't even see I just wanted like a basic like chicken lo mein because I like those lo mein noodles. They're a little bit thicker, but I didn't even see that on the menu. So I got the Singapore My Fun, which is the Singapore noodles, which is, I don't know if you've ever had them. It's like thinner rice noodles. But it's supposed to be spicy. It's supposed to come with like red pepper flakes and like that hot peppers, and also sometimes they use a little bit of curry powder, which a lot of people don't like that curry flavor. I happen not to mind it, but it's like the thin rice noodles, spicy, with shrimp, pork, and chicken, and a little bit of scrambled egg, and then they usually put in some like not hot the green pepper, the sweet green and red peppers. Anyway, it shows up. I get it. It's like greasy. it's not like the noodles were all like mushy. They're supposed to like still have a little bit of a little bit of like al dente or whatever firmness to them. And it just didn't taste good. It didn't have any flavor. It didn't have any of the curry spice.
Really?
And meanwhile, the guy next to me, he ordered something and he had the whole big platter of a nice beef lo mein. I was like, "Where'd you get that? I didn't see the lo mein on the menu." He said, "Oh, I just asked. They said they could do it." And so like I'm like, "Oh no," and like I didn't even eat the whole thing, and then it's just like it upset my stomach. I got knocked out. I went home. I started watching that Braves Phillies game. It was tied up. They were in the 11th inning, and because I'm paying attention to the Braves because I'm somewhat of a Mets fan, and I'm watching now the Mets lead evaporate. And there is no better cure for insomnia than watching baseball because I just passed out. They went to the top of the 11th inning. And I just I have no idea what happened. Next thing I know, it was 3 a.m. I'm waking up on the couch. So there you have it, baseball. Hey, I got to give Professor props because Kyrie Irving definitely should be shipped off to Russia.
Yep.
I have no idea. I'm reading some things about the Heat, or like that the Heat has been mentioned in terms of Kyrie Irving. I'm sorry. There are certain players that I know that they have talent, but that you just never think they will fit in Heat culture. And I think there's a baseline of intelligence that you need to be part of Heat culture. And I'm not quite sure if Kyrie flat earth don't give me. I don't think he fits. I don't want any part of him. He's a cancer. You should ship him off to Russia. If there's any way to get Kevin Durant, if there's any kind of magical Andy Ellisberg way to maneuver cap pieces and people, I don't know, but
but the Nets aren't being realistic right now. The Nets are just asking for they would want Butler and Bam. Like that's what.
Yeah, you're not getting both. And I heard that they can't give up Bam as long as Ben or whatever. There's somebody on the Nets roster. Yeah, Simmons and I don't follow all that. That you have to talk to Ira Winderman. But the bottom line is, if there's a way to get a Jimmy Butler and Kevin Durant together in Miami, I want to see that as a fan. But who wouldn't?
You don't want Kyrie. Well, the Heat aren't trying to get Kyrie. The Heat Kyrie stuff is like back burner. The Lakers, for some reason, want every Malcontent known to man. So the Lakers are the one team that supposedly has high interest. The Heat don't. The Heat are it's Durant, Mitchell, or stay as already constituted because this team went to a shot away from the NBA Finals. I mean, so that's where that is. I love Sarny, and it's funny you made fun of baseball, but Sarny tries to force feed me into all these other sports. I try to watch them, but baseball is friggin' boring these days. Like nothing happened. It was 10-0 yesterday. Like it's strikeout, home run, or walk. That's literally what baseball is. Don't be mad at me. Like tell baseball to get their act together. I don't know what the hell to tell you.
I don't know. I mean, it just seemed to go quicker when I was younger, and now that time is running out for all of us. I just come on, get it over with. And so like you either have the 10-0 blowout. I guess I didn't even see the Yankees Red Sox game yesterday. That I guess the Yankees ended up winning the first of 4, and Aaron Judge sat out, and our man Joe Casale was railing because I guess Judge has been sitting out a bunch of games, and I don't know if he has any kind of injury or they're just playing the whole whatever they call it, sabermetrics, or just like trying to, conserve innings for later in the year. But it's like he's not a starting pitcher; he's a stud. So it's like,
no, he has some tightness or soreness or something. I saw that.
Okay, so but there is an explanation.
He's always hurt. Like that was his thing. Is that every year he's hurt. So it makes sense that he would have some kind of a strain, and they'd be cautious.
I guess so, or they're just saving him for the weekend games that are going to be on Fox and all the other bigger networks. But hey, and one other good idea, so this Brittany Greer, it's an unfortunate situation, but and I don't even know the backstory. Was she playing in a league over there? Is that
she plays every year? Like that's why everyone in the sports world is confused because a lot of women do that. They actually get paid more over there than they do in the WNBA.
Right.
So they'll go overseas. Whether I don't usually hear Russia. Like it's weird you go to Russia, but Turkey, Israel. Yeah. Well, I know they have
Greece has a big league.
It's fucking. Like I don't know if I'd want to run there, but they all China, Greece, Turkey, Israel. It's big, and they pay the women as much, if not more, than the men. Like the women, it's a big thing over there. And she's been playing in Russia for years. Like this isn't new. Like this wasn't the first time she brought the vape. Like she obviously been bringing it for years. She's never gotten in trouble for it, but now we're in quote unquote a war with Russia. And that's the thing.
This is the first time. This is where athletes have to pay attention to the greater world around them. And you
for
should
sure.
know that right now, when shit's going down in Ukraine and the U.S. is going to be coming down hard on Russia, that then you become the possibility of a geopolitical pawn, which is what she is at this point. They realize that there might be some significance, and why not bust her for something that's illegal there? And, she might have to do some hard time until she's bartered away. Now, my idea is we should here in this country round up Sergei Bobrovsky, the Florida Panthers goaltender and Russian. And I assume now he's back in Russia, but wait until like next season until he comes back for the NHL season. And then actually, the Florida Panther is a protected, endangered species, and he should be charged with, assault and attempted murder of the Florida Panthers because he always lets them down in the playoffs, although it wasn't his fault this year. But we could, or come up with some trumped up charge on Andre Vasilevsky, the
there you go,
Tampa goalie. Just say, oh, he had some fentanyl on him, and then you do the even swap where you do a Russian goalie for a U.S. WNBA star. I don't know. I mean, look, really, you gotta be realistic.
Figure it out. Well, they'll get her out at some point, and they're just doing.
Gonna be. Let's put it this way: it's going to be in a time and a manner of Russia's choosing, not ours, and we're going to have to give up something to get it. And I don't know if it's the major arms dealer or but I'm sure the U.S. will start rounding up some other Russians, and then that's it. That's global. That's the global geopolitical game, and that's something that
at some point they'll figure it out. She's not gonna be there forever, but what will not also be forever is Mike Mayo's Fox, which comes in about 3 hours right here on South Florida Live. This
I'm gonna try to get it together. I'm gonna get some energy, and we'll talk more weekend eating. I didn't get your plans. I don't know if you and Shirley are going out anywhere
right now, but you usually help shape my plans, and I was thinking maybe because the Catherine, which we've been to a couple places that look really good, and we haven't got to eat at, so maybe Bubbles and Pearls or maybe the Catherine. I want to get her out there.
Highly recommend either one of those. We paid visits with the Visit Lauderdale crew, and both places wholehearted. Gambling Gourmet, thumbs up. Good spots for low key, not big crowds, but really good food. Yeah. So,
and talking about thumbs up, South Florida Live gives a thumbs up to Mike Mayo's Lunchbox. Check that out at 12 o'clock. Mr. Mayo, we appreciate you, Gambling Gourmet, and we'll talk to you in a few hours, my friend.
Excellent. See you at noon, Lubie.
That was the Gambling Gourmet himself, of course, the professor, which is classic, hilarious. Big Board Top 5. That wraps a bow on my time alone. Hallelujah. I love being with you all. I appreciate those that have stuck with me all week long, but it's never as fun as when we have the one and only Jeff DeForest, the Deef Man. Defo comes back. Today we'll be with you, Monday, and me, thank goodness, on the Defo Show. Finally with Defo and Lubie here on South Florida Live for Mike Mayo, for the professor. Thank you all again. I appreciate you tuning in, sticking with me. Please check out the Lunchbox at 12 o'clock. It'll be Mayo with myself. Talk a lot more food, give you a lot more tips on what you want to do this weekend. And check us out on 5 Reasons Sports with our South Florida content. Check us out, our exclusive content. Today I talk with Jim Sonnefeld, one of the members of Hootie and the Blowfish. He has a book out talking about his times with the Blowfish during and after. So check out the Believe Network, BLEAV.com. Search After Hours. And each and every day, check us out in the morning, 7 to 9, live right here. The Defo Show, finally with Defo and Lubie on South Florida Live.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.